Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this New York State small business financing discussion with PACE SBDC and Empire State Development. I'm your moderator, Renee Goodnow from the New York Small Business Development Center. Today's host is the PACE Small Business Development Center. The PACE SBDC is part of the New York SBDC's network of 22 campus-based centers and outreach offices, which are located across New York State. The New York SBDC is the U.S. Small Business Administration Resource Partner. Our free services are made possible by funding from the SBA in New York State and our host campuses. Joining us to introduce today's presenter and lead things off is PACE SBDC Director Andrew Flamm.
Thanks, Renee. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Again, as Renee mentioned, my name is Andrew Flamm, Regional Director here at PACE University, a Small Business Development Center serving Lower Manhattan. And welcome you to today's session. I'm going to spend a couple quick minutes talking about who we are, what we do, and then turn it over to my colleague and friend, Ray Salaberrios from Empire State Development to go over some information about their agency. And then we're going to have a discussion with some of the key programs that ESD offers to small businesses throughout New York State, and want to leave some time for Q&A to make sure that you all get your questions answered and make sure that we can connect you with proper programs that might be of assistance to you as you build and grow your business here in New York State. Very briefly, as Renee had mentioned, we're one of 22 centers located throughout the state, offering intensive and targeted one-on-one business advisory assistance to small business owners, as well as aspiring entrepreneurs, helping them, as I said, expand or launch businesses here in New York State. All of our services are offered at no cost, so if you're not working with an SBDC advisor as of yet, we would certainly encourage you to do so. We're working in individual areas such as access to finance, which obviously today's focus of discussion, as well as helping business owners look at operational challenges and be able to address those, take on and kind of increase and improve marketing strategies, whether it's building out websites or social media presence and other opportunities to be able to build and grow and let folks know about the important work that you all are doing at the business front, and other procurement and certification opportunities. And then, looking at also access to COVID-19 recovery business resources. There are a number of programs that are in place from the public and private sectors. We'll be going through a bit of the programming that ESD has available for small business owners today. We'll certainly welcome you to take advantage of what's out there and make sure that you're aware of that. And connecting with a business advisor to make sure that you can tackle and get those resources you need to help get through this very challenging climate. So what I'll do is I will pop a couple of items into the chat as we go, talking a bit about how to access one-on-one business advisory services. Again, those are offered at no cost. A bit about some of the COVID recovery programs. I'll include our contact info. And one final note I guess I'll mention is that we do offer a wide range of training programs to small businesses, as do our colleagues from throughout the state. So I will put in a link in the chat where you'll find out about all of our events, both ones that we're hosting, as well as those offered by our colleagues from throughout the state. So certainly take advantage of those as you go. So with that, that's a bit about our services here. And again, we have a very short amount of time, so I wanted to go through quickly as Renee did. So to kick it off, I wanted to introduce our keynote speaker today, Ray Salaberrios, who's the Senior VP for Small Business Capital Access at Empire State Development. Ray's going to talk a bit about the agency, and then we'll pop in and go back and forth in terms of making sure we can cover some key programs. We want to make sure that you all take away valuable information and make sure you can learn about how to access those programs, and be able to get yourself through and build and grow here in New York State. So with that, Ray, I'll turn it over to you, and then I'll jump back in after your opening remarks. So Ray, it's all yours. Thank you so much.
Andrew, thank you. Hello, everyone. As Andrew said, my name is Ray Salaberrios. I'm with Empire State Development. I manage the Capital Access Division and Venture Division for ESD. One of the missions that we have is to make sure that we provide access to capital to small businesses throughout the state. And we provide capital from loans up for $500 up to $7 to $8 million. So well within that gamut, I think most of the folks here will fit right in. We provide loans that help you with small business loans you need, small business loans. We work with a lot of CDFIs, and so the Certified Depository Financial Institutions are one of the main partners that we have in the state. We fund them so that they in turn can fund your small business. We work with minority depository institutions like Carver Bank, Bunsen Bank, credit unions, CDFI credit unions. We work with intermediaries in an effort to make sure that we're able to get the word out and get our capital out to all parts of the state. So if you need a loan for $10,000 because you want to buy some machinery, equipment, or inventory, there's a CDFI that we can send you to help you with those purchases. If you need a loan because you want to buy a building, renovate property, there's also CDFIs that we can send you to who can help you with that. The idea is that New York State is here to support your business. No matter where you're located, no matter what part of the state you're located, New York State has an office, and we have partnerships and relationships that will help to enhance the quality of your business, help to move you forward. We partner with the Small Business Development Centers. Andrew was a former colleague of mine here at ESD. Sorry to see him go, but I'm happy that he's now heading up the Small Business Development Center at Pace University. We also partner with the Entrepreneurial Assistance Centers throughout the state. So we have a well-oiled machine of economic development partners, incentives, and capital to help you grow your business. So I know Andrew wants to talk a few minutes specifically about the Small Business Grant Program. So Andrew, why don't we focus for now on the Small Business Grant Program?
Great, thanks, Ray. We have up on the screen here a screenshot of the New York State COVID-19 Pandemic Small Business Recovery Grant Program. And this has been really a dynamic program that's been available for small businesses to take advantage to kind of help them get through this challenging economic climate. And the things that I wanted to make sure that Ray brought out, and we'll have some key talking points for him to get through, is really how this program, if you have not taken advantage of it as of yet, could be really an effective resource for you. So Ray, maybe start with a bit, if you can, about the program, maybe talk a bit about the grant size and a bit about the eligibility requirements, if you could.
Sure. Let me start by saying, as of today, over 30,000 small businesses in New York State have received a grant. We have issued grants totaling $545 million to date. And we still have more money, more grants are available, so it's not too late to apply. And the application process is relatively simple and painless. What we're trying to do is make sure that we help companies that were affected negatively by the pandemic. Right? So the criteria that we have is you should have started your business before March of 2019. Right? You have to have revenues anywhere from $25,000 to $2.5 million. Right? Now, there's a question about viability, because the idea was we want to help viable businesses. And so we determine viability by two methods. One is that you had a profit of at least $1 in 2019. So when people talk to you about how do I apply for the grant, I say make sure you answer these questions. Question one, did you start your business before March 1st, 2019? Okay. If you answer yes, go to the next question. In 2019, did you show a profit of at least $1? If the answer is yes, you go to the next question. When you look at when you compare your 2020 revenues with your 2019 revenues, the expectation is that because of the pandemic, you would have made less money in 2020. You would have had a shortfall in revenue. So we set that at 25%. So you compare your 2020 revenues with your 2019 revenues. And if you have a more than a 25% loss in revenue, you check that box. So right now you're on once you check those three boxes, you're pretty way on your way to getting a grant. So again, start your business before March 1st, 2019. In 2019, have a profit of at least $1. When you compare your 2020 to 2019 revenues, you have at least a 25% loss when you compare 2020 to 2019. And that's the case. Go ahead.
So in terms of the profit, Ray, I just wanted to make sure that it comes from your mouth so that people can understand. In terms of the $1 profit, how do they demonstrate that, to make sure they've got the proper documentation in place for you.
Well, on your whatever your tax returns show as your bottom line numbers, you know, whether you are a corporation, a sole proprietor, partnership, LLC, you're going to have a line at the end that says, this is what I made, because that's what you're going to pay taxes on. So your line number, that bottom line number, has to be at least $1.
Thank you.
And go from there. So how do we figure out? So, and then we talk about, okay, what else do I need? Well, we want to make sure you're still in business. So we ask for you to have proof of your address, right? Have at least two, you have to have at least a lease and a Con Edison bill, a telephone bill, something to show, a bank statement, credit card statement. Two of those, and they're listed on the website, and I believe they're going to post the list into the website that'll give you all this information, because you can apply online. Actually, the only way you can apply is online. But the idea is, let me see if I have a list here. I do have a list here. Okay, so you need the required documents that you need. After you answer those 3 questions, it's all downhill. Think about that. You answer the question of, did you start in March 2000, before March 1st, 2019? Did you show a profit at least $1? Are your revenues declining at least 25% between 2019 and 2020? If you answer yes to all those 3 questions, it's downhill, right? Because now you got to show us, you have to have proof of 2 of the following documents, either a lease, utility bill, a bank statement, a mortgage statement, a credit card statement, an insurance statement, your NYS 45 statements. So these are documents that we believe you should have as a small business. And you can have others, but those are the ones we look for. Again, your proof of your address, your lease, utility, a bank statement, your mortgage statement, a credit card statement, insurance statement, things as such to show us that you're still operational and what your address is. Anyone who owns the business, who has 20% or more ownership of the business, has to submit the identification with the application. And then you cannot have received any grant assistance from the American Rescue Plan. So from that point now, you answer yes to all those questions, you're on your way to a grant. The question is, how much of a grant can you qualify for? Right? So
Ray, in terms of the prior support, so there are limitations with regard to kind of what you can secure, so that there are, if the businesses are listening today had modest support from, let's say, PPP or from EIDL, shuttered venues, like there are opportunities for folks to kind of get support through this as well, right?
The idea is that you have not received a paycheck protection loan of more than $250,000. You have not received a grant. You could receive a loan from the EIDL program, but not a grant. Well, actually, you can't get a grant more than $10,000. If you received a grant of $10,000 or less, you're good, because that you can get that. But you can't get a grant more than $10,000 from the EIDL, and any loan you get from EIDL is also available. So those are pretty much the prohibitions that will preclude you from getting a grant.
And I think what Ray is mentioning is so important to reiterate, because I think some of the businesses feel like, at least those that we talk to sometimes, like, hey, I got federal support, can I take advantage of the ESD program as well? And the answer is, based on what Ray just laid out, if you got some support but not above those levels, you're still good to go. And this is grant support, as Ray had referenced. This is not money get paid back.
Right, so it's grant support, and I think they put up this website, so you can see the website. You can apply online. The process is painless. It really is. I mean, if you have a small business, there should be no reason why you can't get the documentation required for the program, because we're not requiring anything that's complicated. You have to submit your 2019 and 2020 tax returns, along with the rest of the documentation we spoke about. What we want is to give this money away. And if you think about it, over 30,000 small businesses to the tune of $545 million have already received grants. So we still got like another 160 million to go. So now's the time to apply. We work with the small business development centers if you need assistance. I'm sure Andrew's center can help you. go through the documentation again in case you missed it, because I know everyone's listening, and you may not have noted what you need to get through with the program. But you go on the website, you can talk to any SBDC, any EAC center throughout the state for assistance.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Ray said. I mean, the program has been really effective for a lot of clients that our center and our colleagues throughout the state have worked with. So I did put a link in the chat so you can find out how to set up a one-on-one business advisory session with one of our advisors or our advisors in the centers elsewhere in the state. The services are all free, and as Ray had mentioned, this is grant funds. So definitely take advantage of it and definitely connect with one of our advisors to be able to help you access those funds.
Right, and so let's keep in mind what we want to do is to help you, right? And so the way we help you is by having access to capital that's meaningful for you. All right, at this time, if you have revenues from $25,000 to $49,999, you get a grant of $5,000. If you have revenues from $50,000 to $99,999, you get a grant of $10,000. If you have revenues from $100,000 to $2.5 million, right, you can get up to $50,000. They're going to give you 100% of your gross receipts, but you can go up to $50,000 with a grant. So there's different levels for you, but there's a level for everyone. All right, and what we'll look at is what can you use the money for. You know, I asked that question. They asked me that question. I always say you pretty much can use the money for anything. You know, and sometimes they tell me, "Ray, you shouldn't say that." Well, it's true. I mean, you can use it for, the only thing you can't use the money for is to pay back a loan. Right? So we're not going to give you money to pay back a loan, but we'll give you money for your normal expenses. Right? Your payroll costs. Right? If you have rent or mortgage payments are eligible. Right? If you have insurance costs, utility costs, you know, those property taxes, your day-to-day business expenses are eligible for the grant program. We're not going to ask you to prove it to us. We're not going to ask you for statements. We're not going to reimburse you. We're going to give you whatever grant you qualify. At that point, you use that money to keep your business afloat. Because the idea is to help you get through this crisis. And we're coming out of it now. So we're saying, all right, well, we got to find out other ways to assist small businesses, right? Because grant money can only take you for so far. It's just a one-time shot, right? So it's not going to help you on the long term. The grant process is to help you recover from the immediate effects of the pandemic. But now you want to grow your business, right? And now we talk about what else can New York State do for us? What other programs do we have? How do we access those programs? Right? What is the process? So if I'm not sure if any questions on the small business grant program came up. I don't have access to the chat. If they do, I'll answer them now. If not, we'll continue on, Andrew. I'll leave it to you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. Renee, do you have any questions as of yet? Or we can make sure we save some time at the end as folks may be digesting the information that Ray's covered, and we can kind of go through that as we get to that point.
We have a few tax return related ones that I'm going to go through and see if I can answer in the FAQ. So I'll save them till the end.
Okay.
Super.
So let's talk about some other funds and programs that we are going to initiate. New York State has been allocated $501 million from the State Small Business Credit Initiative. And that is under the American Rescue Plan. And so those funds are going to be utilized to help small businesses with their need to access capital. And we'll be working with CDFIs, minority depository institutions, credit unions, CDFI credit unions. One of those four are in your communities. You definitely have the CDFI in your community. There's definitely a minority depository institution in New York City. There's 11 of them in New York City. You definitely have CDFI credit unions, and you definitely have credit unions. So the question is, how do you access them, and what services will they provide? Well, accessing them is just very simple. You look it up on your website, find out who the names are. There are a lot to list for this chat, but you can, again, CDFIs, CDFI credit unions, and minority depository institutions. Those are the organizations that we're working with to try to get you access to this credit. So let's say, for argument's sake, you start a business.
Ray, I just for your information, I put a link into the chat for a select list of CDFIs here in the New York City community anyway that we work with and very active. So hopefully at least folks that are can access that, you can at least get a sample of some of the ones that Ray's referencing right now.
We have programs that are going to be directly targeted to help you get access to capital, so that if your credit score is marginal, if you don't have a lot of revenue to show, you should not be precluded from getting capital. Right? I'm a firm believer that government money is made to assist you to grow your business. And if you need the technical assistance to apply, you can go to Andrews for the Small Business Development Centers, the Entrepreneurial Assistance Centers. They can help you with any type of application you want to get capital from us, from New York State. An example of capital would be contractor financing, right? How many folks here are contractors who want to get work with New York State? Well, there are a lot of folks who want. The New York State has doled out billions of dollars in contracts. We, as an agency, over the last 3 years, we funded over $300 million in contracts to minority women-owned businesses throughout the state. And that's through a program that's called the Bridge to Success program. That program is currently existing, but it'll be sunsetting soon. But the idea is you have to be certified for the Bridge Success program. You have to get certified. And again, I understand the small business development centers and the EACs can help you navigate the certification process. But what we do is we'll provide working capital so that minority women-owned businesses have the capital they need to fund projects, New York State projects. If you want to work for instance, in New York City, one of the biggest projects going on now is JFK. And the Port Authority is going to issue contracts on JFK in excess of $500 million, earmarked specifically for small businesses. So you get yourself certified, and then the Port Authority will lead you to the Bridge Success lenders who they work with, who can help provide the capital you need so you can fund the project. If you get a $500,000 contract, you may need $50, $60, even $100,000 to fund that project. You can get the capital for that. And that capital will be utilized in a way that makes it palatable for you to make your payroll, to pay your insurance, to do what you need until the Port Authority or whatever state agency you're working with, whether it's the MTA, that they, let's just say, getting paid in 30 days is not something that New York State does on a regular basis. So you need some cash to help tide you over during that time period until New York State pays you what they need to pay you, right? We also have the ability for you to get bonded. For those of you that need bonding assistance, New York State will issue and help you through the bonding process, which is a difficult process to get through. But my team to date has helped over 97 businesses and over $100 million in bonding. And it's funny, you hear people say that the minority contractors are such a risky proposition. But what we have proven is that we have less than 2% losses and only one bonding loss over the 4 years of the program. So I think that tells us the story and we debunked that theory that because you're a minority or woman-owned business, you are inherently riskier. We think, I guess the word you used to use is boulder dash. That's an old word, but that's the word I can think of right now. It's boulder dash. So we want to continue with that process. With the state small business credit initiative, we're going to continue a contractor financing program. We're going to continue a bonding program. Our contractor financing will go up to $500,000. You have to have revenues of less than 5 million, right? So we only really want to help small contractors, and we divided. We say a small contractor is a contractor who has revenues less than 5 million.
Thanks, Ray. I guess, in terms of the contract financing is just so important, as you're pointing out. I think being able to have access to capital to get you through that challenging period, where you're looking at how to budget, how to be able to make sure that you have the cash wherewithal to be able to get through until, those payments come. So being able to work with an advisor, make sure that your project budgeting is in place, making sure you have that working capital in hand to be able to expand what you need to be able to deliver on those projects is really crucially important. And another topic for another time, I think, in terms of working with your business advisors, I think being able to look at how to access and identify contract opportunities that might be a good fit for you. So if that's an interest area, when we get into the Q&A and afterwards, if you're interested in finding contract opportunities with the state and others, please do let us know. We can help you with that as well.
Right. I think what we should remind the attendees is that it's a process. It's not a difficult process. You just have to have your documentation in order, right? Because normally we're just going to require your tax returns, and I suggest that folks apply for contractor financing assistance and then go out and bid on a contract, because that way it's like having a credit card in your back pocket, that once you get awarded a contract, you have the funds available to fulfill your obligations on that contract, right? So if you apply ahead of time and you get approved, you have a line depending on what the dollar amount you were approved for. In New York City, our lenders are True Fund Financial Services, Carver Bank, and Pursue It. Those are 3 lenders we have in New York City. So you could pick up the phone again, True Fund Financial Services. I'm sure Andrew has a good relationship with all 3 of those organizations. Carver Bank and Pursuit, they all will help you with the application process. What we try to do is do as much hand holding as possible to make the application process as painless as possible. Right? There's always going to be a little bit of pain. We try to minimize that. And I think that if you work, I always tell folks, I say you should go talk to your small business development center, because that's what they're there for. Andrew's team is ready to help. They're well versed on the programs that we're talking about. They're well versed in helping you through the maze of applications that the agencies may throw your way. Right? Most of the applications just require really, really simple information, but it's so many pages. It seems like it seems a lot harder than it actually is. Andrew, do you help them with certification?
We do, Ray, and thank you for the reference and for the pitch. I think the things that Ray brings up in terms of the relationships with these lenders, I think is so crucial, because we're in New York State, we're really blessed to have kind of a really effective and wide-ranging group of CDFIs that are serving small businesses. And the 3 that Ray referenced here in New York City, we work very closely with. And as this is a statewide session, I should make sure that I reference also there are CDFIs elsewhere in other parts of the state, and Ray's really well connected to the lenders that are elsewhere in the state, as are our colleagues. So if you're dialing in from somewhere else, do let us know in the Q&A and or in your response in the survey, and let us know, and I'm happy to connect you with my counterparts elsewhere as well. But in terms of certification, of course, that's a big piece of the puzzle in terms of getting procurement opportunities. I think being able to position yourself, taking advantage of certifications that are relevant to your business structure, definitely very helpful. And you want to make sure that you're incorporating that as you're promoting your business, connecting with procurement specialists, making sure you're incorporating that into your capability statement and other ways that you can promote who you are and the kinds of projects that might be a good fit for you.
Yeah, I think that's the key. The key is that you work in concert with one of the technical assistance providers with certification. New York State is coming out with a plan, and your EACs will be a lot more valuable to you as obviously the small business development centers, and try to streamline the certification process. I mean, we hear you. We know it takes a little while to get certified, but we are doing our best. We're going to work overtime, and we're hiring new folks. We're hiring analysts throughout the state to be domiciled in the different regions so that you don't have to go that far to get assistance. Well, the idea is how important it is to get certified, because the key to working with New York State contracting opportunities is that you're certified as an MWBE. I can't tell you how important that is. And then that allows you access to credit. Although you don't have to be certified to get access to some of the credit programs we talked about. In fact, you don't have to be certified to get any of the credit programs that we will be initiating under the State Small Business Credit Initiative. Certification is only necessary if you're going to have a contract with New York State. If you just want access to credit, then the different CDFIs will be there to help. SBDCs can help you with the documentation you need. Minority depository institutions, credit unions, and such are stand ready. We got $501 million to spend. Right, so it's not going to be for lack of funds. It's going to be just making sure we get the word out and tell folks this is how it's going to happen. This is what programs we're having. So we'll be reaching out with individual SBDCs and have individual program sessions set up with the programs that we're going to have.
That's awesome. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah.
I know we have a limited amount of raised time today, and I want to make sure we get to any questions that we come up outside of the scope of today's session. I should also make a pitch. ESD has got a really robust and terrific export financing program. So if any of you on the call are interested in export finance to help you tap into overseas markets, do add that into the chat, and or kind of if there are questions and folks that we can connect you with to raise colleagues at ESD that manage those programs, we're happy to as well. But given, I guess, the limited amount of time we have, Ray, maybe let's circle back to Renee and see if she's got any questions for you in terms of some of the programs we've reviewed so far.
Thank you. Ray, can you repeat the list of banks? It was Pursuit and who else?
Those CDFIs were Pursuit, True Fund Financial Services, and Carver Bank in New York City. I think Andrew said he's listed in the chat the list of all the CDFIs throughout the state. And you go on the ESD website and also find information for individual CDFIs, MDIs, credit unions, and the such.
I'll add the contract financing piece and the folks Ray listed now. That's why I'm jumping off screen for a minute. I'll be back in a sec.
Thank you. So on the website, the one that we were discussing at the beginning, for the 1099 folks, did you talk about what freelance folks should do to apply?
Well, freelance folks or gig workers, it depends on how you are set up. So because you're a freelancer does not preclude you from getting a grant. It depends on how you're reporting your taxes. Are you a sole proprietor? If you're a sole proprietor, you're going to submit your 1040. If you are a partnership, there's partnership documents you're going to submit. If you are a corporation. So it's a matter of how you report your income to Uncle Sam. So for 2020 and 2019, those are documents you're going to have to submit. However you report your earnings to Uncle Sam. I haven't said that term in a while, Uncle Sam. I don't think anyone uses that any longer, do they? I don't think so.
Oh, they do.
They do? Okay. So if you, as you submit your documents to Uncle Sam, the same documents you're going to submit to the folks who are running the New York State Recovery Grant Program.
Okay, thank you. There was a couple more sole proprietors on here. Andrew, there's a question for you about how to set up an appointment with you and your team.
I will add that link back into the chat now.
Thank you. And do folks reach out to CDFIs directly, or do they go through a state program?
You should reach out to the CDFI directly. Right. And so I would tell you this, that it can only help you. I'm sure my name is around here somewhere. If you call a CDFI and say, hey, I was on a webinar with Ray Salaberrios, he told me to call you. The reason that we are having this session is to make sure you understand that New York State, along with the small business development centers, are here to help you. Right? We're here to make sure that we can help your business in the way it needs to be helped, whether it's access to capital, whether it's technical assistance, whether it's a grant. So hopefully what you'll get out of this session is that New York State, and along with the partner small business development centers, are your champions, and we are here to help you. So, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Renee, it's great meeting you.
You too. We got lots of thank yous, Ray.
All right, great. So I gotta run, folks. I really do.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Ray. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Ray.
So I will stick around and try and answer some additional questions as well. And then obviously, as we need to loop Ray back in for any things that come up that are outside of our areas of expertise, I'm happy to do that.
This person didn't report their tax return in 2019, but reported the sales tax. Is it possible to apply? Is that something they can work with your team on?
I would suggest they connect with an advisor to figure out what the documentation is they have in place to make sure that we're talking about the same items. The program guidelines are what they are. So what the state is going to be looking for is, I think specific. Thank you for scrolling down to that. But insofar as there's opportunities to engage and sort of look and see if there are ways to amend as they go forward. ESD has been really very solid about kind of looking at, areas where, potential businesses might have fallen through the cracks. So if there are things on here that are challenging to you, I would certainly reference that in a session with the business advisor. Clearly, we can't promise anything, but we're more than happy to raise that issue as well and see if there are opportunities down the road. And clearly, there are programs beyond this individual, COVID-19 recovery program. So there may be some things that have come up for you with respect to this program that may not be a good fit, but the advisors may have some other ideas for you to make sure that you're taking advantage of everything out there that's available for you.
Thank you. Do you know if there's significance of the March 2019 business start date? This business started in August 2019.
What they want to be able to do is have a means of demonstrating that year over year that there were kind of impacts from COVID. So, again, the guidelines were not ones that we created. We've inherited them and are trying to, translate them as best as we can. But effectively, that's really what the intent is and focus is for you as a business owner to be able to demonstrate the impacts year over year.
Thank you. And I don't think is there a deadline set yet to apply?
There's not a deadline set yet to apply, but as Ray had mentioned, they've made their way through about 3/4 of the funding that's been allocated towards the program. And my sense is that if there are opportunities for them to reallocate or find other programs that might be a good fit, they may consider that. Obviously, we don't know that for sure. All I can say is the program's live now, and as Ray had mentioned, tens of thousands of businesses have accessed it, and we want to make sure that as many of you on the call today that haven't as of yet get the opportunity as well.
We talked about some of the eligibility. Do you see any of the eligibility restrictions being loosened for this one?
As I said, there have been small changes that ESD has made over time. They've increased the total with respect to how much in gross revenue you can have. There was one change that was in place with respect to businesses that were operating in New York that may have been incorporated elsewhere, were two that come to mind. So that it's not, everything's not written in stone, so to speak, but my expectation is the program guidelines will stay more or less the same. There may be some additional small changes they'll make as you go. And if there are particular ones that are challenging for you, I would say raise that in your session with your business advisor. And you can kind of brainstorm and see if there are opportunities around that.
Thank you. For the Port Authority contracts and the other contracts you mentioned, how do folks find more about that out?
In terms of the financing aspect, there's a state, the contract financing program that Ray had referenced is called Bridge to Success. There's also a New York City-based contract financing program for those of you that are pursuing or taking on contracts with the City of New York. I did put that link in the chat earlier, but I'll try and kind of circle back to that in a moment. So those are really for the financing-oriented questions. If there are folks who are looking to access contract opportunities more broadly, I think I touched on this briefly. There is a program that the New York State Small Business Development Center Network has called BidLinks that helps individual small businesses connect with contract opportunities from a range of levels of government. So looking at federal, state, city and local contracts, and your business advisors can work with you to identify what some keywords are, what some capacity is with respect to size of contracts. And with that information, you'll be able to kind of get individualized lists of contract opportunities that might be a good fit for your business. The service is totally free and it's available to any small business that's a client of the SBDC network. We've had loads and loads of businesses that have found contract opportunities through this and been able to bid and successfully secure contracts. So if this is not something that you're utilizing yet, we'd certainly encourage you to connect with an advisor to talk it through. And if you're already an SBDC client and you're not using it, make sure you talk to your business advisor about it to sort of see if there are some ways to access that as well.
Thank you. And I did drop in the BidLinks, a PDF I found that goes through all of that. We had quite a few folks ask for that. And just to clarify on making an appointment with an SBDC business advisor, if you are around the Pace area, Pace would love to work with you. If you're outside the area in the cold, cold north of New York, like myself, I will put in a list of all of our locations. And the application or intake form is the same for all locations.
I just put the link to the request a counseling session. So that's a virtual one. So if you fill that out, if you want to work with us, when you go into the New York City section, or I guess the New York County option, there are a couple of drop downs. Click it, the Pace SBDC, and your request will come to us. As Renee mentioned, if you're working elsewhere and you want to connect with your local center, which we'd certainly encourage you to do, just click on whatever is most convenient for you, and you'll get connected to them directly.
Thank you. And a quick clarifying question: is all of this just through Pace University, Pace SBDC?
Is all of everything that we've talked about today. These are all programs that are available at any Small Business Development Center office throughout the state. As we had mentioned, there's 22 of us located throughout the state, and we're all staffed by full-time professional business advisors helping existing small businesses and entrepreneurs with a wide range of issue areas. Obviously, COVID recovery has been a big one for all of us over these past 2 years, but there are a wide range of other issues, with respect to traditional financing, contract financing, marketing and sales strategies, procurement. We talked quite a bit about today as well. So these are all things that our business advisors are super sharp at and can kind of help you work through whatever challenges you might have. And all of these are offered at no cost.
And to clarify, the BidLinks is a program through the New York SBDC, so you would have access to that working with any SBDC, but it is specific to the SBDC, correct?
That's right.
Okay, and again, that was BidLinks, BIDLINX. It's a bid matching service. Do you have any additional info on restaurant relief funding?
There is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, obviously the federal program that was in place through the SBA. There is also additional restaurant support programming coming through the state. Ray and I discussed in advance of the session, as some of these programs are not yet launched, we didn't want to kind of get ahead of the curve in terms of getting you guys set up, but there are some programs that are coming, and I can certainly kind of put some information in the chat about kind of where those are located. Restaurant relief more broadly, I think you want to look at, in addition to kind of COVID-19 recovery programs, also thinking about kind of, both from the financial side, thinking about opportunities to kind of secure a line of credit. This is more traditional financing, but I think being able to have funds in place to, take advantage of opportunities to stock inventory, or opportunities to be able to promote or expand staffing in advance of holidays, or seasons like that. I think those are things that your business advisor is going to kind of talk through in terms of assessing and analyzing your financial data and being able to get a handle on what that might look like. On the financial data front, sort of also looking at what some industry norms might be, being able to compare and consider, what your costs of goods are, compared to other businesses that might be in your same industry of the same size. So I think being able to kind of have that mindset and sort of set that kind of understanding, I think, is really useful. And the other things I would talk about are, thinking about if you're not taking advantage of e-commerce and not taking advantage of some of the marketing opportunities through website development and social media presence. I mean, these are things that our advisors work a lot on with our clients. So thinking about how to improve and expand messaging, you get the word out about specials you might have, or new events you might be hosting, things like that. Being able to think about kind of how to get that word out more effectively, not only for restaurants, but including more broadly about other businesses as well. Thinking about that as a resource for you, I think would be certainly important to consider.
Are there some examples you can give us for the types of contracts some of our clients have gotten through bid links?
Types of contracts, yeah. I mean, it's a wide range of state and city agencies and federal agencies. I sort of think about, the Board of Ed here in New York City. Looking from the state side, I mean, there are, the MTA and the Port Authority are obviously, large players, as Ray had mentioned. And from the federal side, I mean, it's really kind of, so wide ranging, both from contracts as well as something we didn't talk about today. It may not be relevant for some of you on the call, but there's also a program through the SBA called the SBIR program. These are grant funds for technology-oriented businesses looking at research and development and helping to commercialize, business ventures. And we've certainly had a wide range of clients, both at our center as well as throughout the network, and able to tap into this also.
Thank you. Do you have recommendations for folks looking for business expansion loans?
Business expansion loans, yes. In fact, we just had, Renee was kind enough to be our co-sponsor for a session we had with the SBA 2 weeks ago, I think it was, where we had a small business lending panel, just a sample of the kinds of business lenders that are out there. We had a couple of banks and as a couple of community-based lenders here in New York City, kind of looking at how to access, financing for different opportunities. So depending on the type of expansion you're looking at, whether it's adding staff, this might be more of a working capital type loan, thinking about, maybe it's adding said capacity for a new location, or expanded capacity for a busy time of year. If there are seasonal businesses, summer businesses, let's say, where you're doing gangbuster business during the summer months and it's a little bit slower otherwise, that would be more working capital oriented. If you're thinking about, capital expenditures, things that you want to be able to build out, whether it's physically building out a space, buying machinery and equipment to be able to take on new contracts. You might also look at the purchase of a building. Ray and I talked about, we didn't get a chance to talk through, but the state has a program called the JDA, Job Development Authority program, and then the Small Business Administration, the SBA, has a program called the 504 program. These are both programs that are well positioned to kind of help businesses purchase commercial facilities. So depending on kind of what the expansion loan is for, our business advisors would sit with you, kind of get a sense of what it is that you're looking to do with it, try and get kind of a handle on what the overall total project cost might be, and then think about kind of what your investment might be towards that overall project cost. The 504 program in particular is a really solid one because you only need a 10% equity contribution towards it. So you can kind of get 90% financing for a project, which, for expansion opportunities is really, really helpful.
All right, let's end on Marco's question. Marco owns a business and is a culinary instructor. He's looking to expand business within students to give jobs in the food service industry, also securing a contract to supply edible arrangements to the government, in turn giving jobs to less fortunate students. Did you want to help me help Marco, Andrew?
I think that any contract opportunities you're looking for, I mean, we would pursue through the bid links program that we talked about earlier, being able to check on keywords that you're involved with to be able to assess what agencies might be bidding out contracts like that, and be able to figure out whether it might be a good fit based on what you're up to. So, my recommendation would be, if you have not as of yet, sit with an advisor, go through, and then add those keywords, add that capacity. It takes a very short period of time, but to be able to assess what kinds of contracts might be a good fit. And then simultaneously think about kind of what kinds of financing you might need in place to be able to build that out. And then whatever SBDC you're working with may be tapped into the community more locally. I mean, we certainly work very closely with our career services folks. So if there are job opportunities that you're looking to fill, in particular, back office, whether it's bookkeeping and marketing and other support services, I mean, we're all based out of universities and have, access to kind of some terrific students, as well as graduates. So if there are some opportunities to help you stock up in terms of talent, certainly take advantage of the universities where you're located.
So right. Andrew, I think we are in good shape, and thank you for fielding all of those. We had lots of thank yous rolling in. Andrew, I will turn it over to you to close things down.
And I appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. If you're not working with a business advisor yet, please do take advantage of our services, connect with an advisor, and work with them and help to make sure that you access all of these great programs that are available to you to help build the program.